I'm a big person about studying happiness and trying to figure out how to become content in life. Even though I think life is a journey, it's ups and downs.
Yeah.
You just got to understand that once you understand, it's kind of there's this idea in Kabbalah where you have to rise where God is, where it's kind of enlightened. He's looking over the valley. You're in this kind of tight ravine of like a thing. Imagine a Grand Canyon, but really tight.
Yeah.
So you can't see what's around the next corner. So it seems scary. But if you can rise above and kind of see where all the turns and where the ending is, it's not nearly as scary. And that's kind of what life is. Like once you start to realize it's going to be okay and you'll get through those turns and there are ups and downs, but tomorrow will come, I think you get happier. And I think what family has taught me is there's always this steadiness. And I think if you can provide, for your family, if you can build a family, which I'm now doing with my wife, we're due with our first child, you do all this stuff, but what's it really worth? And I think the only real legacy in life is family and charity. And when you asked me earlier, kind of if I had a 5-year plan, I can tell you, and I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but
no, it's good.
For me, my perspective is I just wanted to leave a mark on the world. I wanted to leave something positive because I don't, I think you only get a short time on this planet, and what's it worth unless you can do something,
right?
And I understand. One of my mentors said, "No one's going to remember you in 100 years. No one's going to remember me. No one's going to remember you, but they'll feel our impact."
Yeah.
And who might remember me is my children. And so the idea of family, the idea of working your ass off to share it with someone else is what makes it worthwhile. So to me, it's everything. I mean, it's, and I don't even think I comprehend what that means until I meet this kid in February. But family is everything. And I think, you look at a lot of third world countries, and a lot of people don't realize. I watched this documentary, Happy, the other day, which is really
it's a great documentary.
And they talk about how our nation in the last 50 years has gone up 50% up in wealth. How we are richer than we were 50 years ago by 50%.
Wow.
But our happiness per capita has gone up less than 1%. And I think it's because we chase the dollar, but we don't understand what the dollar is for. And money is an amazing thing. It can be actually a complete release and an avenue to freedom.
Sure.
But it can also trap you at the same time. You get caught in the rat race. And I think family is that thing that you always need to know that comes first. And if you do that, you're going to live a happier life.
So in your 20s, it sounds like you were chasing building things in your life, making money, hustling. Yeah. It wasn't as much about building a family, obviously.
But I tattooed this on my wrist when I was 20.
Wow. Interesting.
No, actually, hold on. No, I wasn't 20. Hold on. Let me think. Was I 20? It was the day after Jay Williams had his motorcycle accident.
Oh, wow.
So it was June 19th or June 20th that I did it, because Jay is one of my closest friends, and I found out what happened to him, and I chickened out about getting a tattoo a couple of weeks earlier. And my mom had unfortunately got a little bit sick. She's okay now. And I realize everything I'm saying now, and I'm actually glad, because once again, this tattoo brings us back to it. I tattooed family on my wrist, my only tattoo, because I said I wanted in a visible place for the rest of my life. People will ask me about this tattoo, which you just did.
Yeah.
And I will have to tell this story of why I got it, which is this simple, and it will remind me for the rest of my life. I was lost, and I was chasing the dollar, and I was chasing the money, and because I didn't really understand. I was just going for it.
Yeah.
And what I realized was, all I'm doing it for is this. So I'm going to tattoo it on my wrist. So for the rest of my life, I'll get asked this question. And for the rest of my life, I will be reminded of what's really important.
Did something shift when in your mindset and your energy or any way of being when you realized that Yael was pregnant?
Yeah, completely.
What shifted for you?
You start to realize, and I think as a man, which I've been told by everyone, and I think it's true, you don't really understand until you see the child. It's not inside of me.
Sure.
So I'm excited, but I'm not like, I can't comprehend until I think I meet them.
It's gonna be crazy.
And I'm really excited about that. But what you start to realize is, you can live for other people. You can do charity. You can, I manage, so I have to. I'm helping people a lot. I'm helping. My job is to help people achieve their goals.
Yeah.
But I think what I realized when my wife got pregnant was, for the first time in my life, my wife's an adult. She can fend for herself.
Yeah.
And if you know my wife, she can really fend for herself.
She's great. Yeah.
When you become a father, you start to have this idea of, oh my God, my life is no longer mine. You know, for the rest of my life, there's never going to be a selfish decision again. You can't call me and say, yo, Scooter, we're going to Vegas. You want to come with us?
Let's go play basketball
Yeah,
right
like,
now.
yeah, every decision I make for the rest of my life, I have to consider how that affects someone who depends on me.
Wow.
Like truly depends on me. And that has made me respect other fathers. The moment she got pregnant, I started looking at friends of mine who are great businessmen who have kids. And I've worked my ass off, but I've been able to be selfish in my time.
Of your own time.
Yeah.
No one to look out for.
No one to look out for, really. Like, even my wife's an adult. Like, I can do what I need to do to make it happen.
Sure.
And I look at some of these guys who have multiple kids, which I want, and they're at the kids' baseball game, and they're here, and then they're still handling all this business.
And they're present, too. And
completely. I have so much respect for them, and I need to pull from their wisdom because I'm scared of how am I going to pull it off, but I have to pull it off. There's no other option. And my buddy Charlie Walk has 4 kids, and he is a workaholic like me. And I hit him the other day when I was thinking about this, and I said, Charlie, I have so much respect for the fact that you work like this and have 4 kids.
Right.
You know, and I, you know, because he's a present father.
Sure.
And I think that is the ultimate thing. That's why I look at people like Jeffrey Katzenberg and Richard Branson as role models in a sense, because these are very successful businessmen, but they have great kids.
Yeah. Great
kids who are adults, and they love their father. And I think that's the ultimate test of success.
If you would have had, been married when you were 23, 25 and had a child, then do you feel like you would be as successful in your business career and done as much now? Or do you feel like it would have shifted a lot of the decisions you made in the last 5 years?
I would love to say yes, because people say that when you have a kid, you grind even harder. That's what I've been told. Because
Gary Vee says that too.
Yeah, like you grind even harder. But I'd have to say no if I was really being honest with myself, because I had to be present because my acts are so young. I had to be present for them at that age.
They were like your kids almost.
Yeah, and I had to be present for them. And I don't think I would have been able to do the things I needed to do at the time I was building my business.
Yeah.
Because now what took me 6 months before, I can do in a phone call because I've earned.
You've got the leverage.
You earn it.
Yeah.
You earn equity in your relationships and time and the hard work you put in.
Sure.
But back then I had to earn it, and I think that's actually why I wasn't ready to have a family back then, because I knew it wasn't the right time. But now I'd be a complete hypocrite if I wasn't a good dad at this point. Because if I can't give my kid the time he needs at this point in my life, then everything I worked for, I'd be a hypocrite.
What's the point, right?
Yeah, what's the point? So, but at the same time, I have amazing artists and people that I work with, because we're all like a family, and they're so excited to meet my kid too. And I think my child will grow up in this fabric of these relationships. Like, my artists are going to be uncles and aunts to them.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have a fun ride. It's a fun life.
That's cool. Yeah. What you talked about mentors. Who are your mentors right now? And do you think it's really important that everyone has a mentor or coaches supporting them?
I think sometimes people say they have one mentor. I've never had one mentor. If I had one mentor, it would be my father. I think I've learned more from him on how to be a man.
Yeah.
And that has helped me more so in business than probably anything. So I'd say he's the ultimate mentor to me. But I have really great mentors in Jeffrey Katzenberg, who I asked, how do you get a family like this? And he gave me really great advice. He pointed a picture of his wife, and he said, get one like that. And then, great mentors and people like Lucien Grange, who's the chairman of Universal Music Group, who I'm very close with, who's been an incredible mentor and friend.
Yeah.
And then, I have people, just friends I draw from. But, I read a book about David Geffen when I was 19, and that really inspired me and made me want to go into this business.
Sure.
And now David has become someone who's become a mentor to me.
Wow.
And someone who I can draw from. And every single time I get advice from him, whether he's yelling at me or, sharing stories, I'm just appreciative, because to be able to meet the people that inspired you is a really beautiful and incredible thing.
Yeah.
And especially when they offer you the guidance that you always wanted from them.
Yeah.
So those kind of people, I'm eternally grateful.
Yeah.
Because I draw from people, but sometimes my grandfather worked in my grandmother worked in a sweatshop 15 years when my dad grew up, and my grandpa was a refugee and kind of did odd jobs, and and I know where I come from, and I think that I was always taught you treat the CEO and the janitor the same.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of wisdom you can get from all kinds of people. And sometimes the best advice I've gotten from mentors is I'll be in a random country in a car with a driver.
The cab drivers always have the best advice.
Dude, and sometimes you'll talk to somebody and you'll just start sharing because they're a complete stranger.
Yeah.
And they will give you a piece of wisdom.
Little nugget, man.
A little nugget.
So good.
Yeah, and
it just clicks with you. You're like, what?
Yeah, you never know. It's the Plato quote that made me, funny enough, my wife said that's why I wanted to meet her. She tweeted it. I saw it. I wanted to meet her. But it's that idea that be kind, for everyone you meet walks a hard journey.
Wow.
And you never know where you're going to, get that greatness from.
Sure.
So
that's a good word.
Yeah.
That's a good word. Now your dad, you said he taught you about what it means to be a man. What does it mean for you to be a man today?
Good husband, good father. I think everything else is secondary. I think if at the end of the day, if I die and people say, oh, you're so successful, look at everything you achieved, and my kid and wife walk up there and they say I was a piece of shit, you're a failure. But if I lose everything and they walk up there and they said he was a great father, a great husband, I think I'm a success.
And what about for someone who's not a father or a husband yet? What's the definition of being a good man?
Being a definition of a good man to me is, life is not black and white. There's a lot of gray.
Yeah.
But understand your end game, do things with integrity, incorporate giving back into things that you do, because it's really good karma.
Yeah.
In our business, everything we do has to have a charitable component.
Yeah.
And what is the idea of being a good man? I think the best way to be a good man is to simply live by the golden rule. Do unto others as you want done unto you.
Sure.
If you just live by the golden rule, I think you'll be okay.
Right. And when did you decide that you wanted to have a charity component to everything that you do? Because I read this about you as well, that every investment you bring on, it's like you've got to have something involved in that.
I think my mother instilled that in us when we were very young. Even, funny enough, it's Hanukkah. And when I was a kid, Hanukkah was 8 days, still is. Hasn't changed. But my mom always said 1 day of presents, 1 day of charity. So we got 4 presents, and we got 4 charities that we would choose as a family. And sometimes we would give money to the charity. Sometimes we would go to the soup kitchen and volunteer. But we always had to have 4 days of charity. That was something very important to my mom. So in my parties, every 4th party, I gave the money to charity.
Wow.
So I worked with a lot of on-campus charities and certain things like that.
Cool.
Because I always thought it made people feel, oh, he's a piece of shit promoter, this, that, and the other. But they'd feel good and say, okay, well, at least he's doing this.
Right.
And when I started putting that into our business and our artists, and look, I'm really proud. I know Justin's gone through a lot of crap this year, but he's the #1 Make-A-Wish giver in history of any musician ever, and he's only 20 years old.
That's impressive.
So people can say what they want, but he has taken that idea of giving and dove in head first. And I see it with Ariana. I see Martin Garrix. Yeah. Listen, we went down to do Ultra. Every other DJ's partying their ass off. And these are all good guys. I'm not talking crap. But I asked Martin, I said, would you mind if we did something good in the community? Miami has a lot of very poor communities. Let's go to one of these community centers and teach kids how to DJ. And Martin went and did that. And he, at first, was like, what are we doing? He's a young kid. He never done anything like that before. And he said to me afterwards, he was like, that's the most fun I've ever had.
Wow.
And I think that a lot of people want to give. They're just not given the opportunity, and they don't know how.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in giving and being of service, and I feel like that's a key to greatness.
Hold on, let me say something to your listeners real quick. I want you guys to understand, you listen to this man's podcast all the time, but I want to tell you why I actually know this man. Because he started to do well in his life and make some money, and the first thing he did is he reached out to my brother and said, I like this charity, I want to get involved. And every single year, he builds schools. Every single year, he gives back. So when you're listening, it goes right back to the beautiful, beautiful man sitting in front of me.
And there's a couple
pictures.
Couple schools.
Yeah, a couple schools that he's built.
I just built one last week.
So what I'm saying is, feel good about what you're listening to in this podcast every week. And the reason I came to do this is because this is someone who gets it, that understands that you get what you give. And I feel like you live the same way as I do, which is you are probably like me. We're both very selfish individuals. And let me say what I mean by that.
I think I know where you're going.
Listen, you like to feel good.
Of course.
And I think in our society, this is way off topic, so I'm sorry again.
It's all good.
But in our society, I think, God, I'm talking a lot today. In our society, I think we get told it's okay for the CEO of a cigarette company to make millions of dollars. But the moment someone works in a nonprofit and makes more than $100,000, it's despicable.
Yeah.
So our brightest and smartest people in the world, they can't work in the giving. We call it nonprofit. My brother calls it for purpose. Because why should you call it something that it isn't? You know, don't say the negative of something that's good. Say the positive. It's for purpose.
It's not against war. It's for peace.
100%. And I think when I say that we're selfish, it's because we should tell our kids, I'm going to tell my kid this, that, you know, you should do things that make you feel good. And drugs aren't going to make you feel good. That's short-lived, everything else, party and drink and all that stuff. You will never feel as good as when you're giving back.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be selfish about that. It's okay to want to celebrate that.
Sure.
To say, you know what, there are the pictures of the schools I built when you walk into my house. You should feel good about that. You should be able to share that. And when people say you should only give and no one know, look, I think you should do that 50% of the time. But the other 50%, you should be giving in a way people know so it inspires others to give. And I think, you know, I get off on giving.
Yeah.
So, you know, why not do that? It makes me feel good. If you have a problem with me feeling good about giving, go fuck yourself.
Right. And what about, I mean, what about people that say they don't have any money to give? They're, you know, maybe
you can give your time. Be nice to a stranger. Open a door.
Yeah.
Like there's so many different ways to help somebody. You know, call a friend that you think, you know, unfortunately, I've lost 2 really close people to me to suicide. And I probably should have picked up that phone a week earlier. And you can't blame yourself or anything like that, but you call somebody that you care about who might be going through a tough time and just speak to them. People need outlets. And there's so many different ways, you know, and things that you'll do that you don't, like years later, people have come up to me and said, hey, you did this. I don't even remember doing it. And the truth is, because it was just this little thing. And, you know, I have those people in my life where I say to them, Steven Spielberg, I was 14 years old. I made this little documentary. Somehow someone gave it to him. It was a piece of crap 10-minute documentary, but he liked the subject. And he wrote a letter to me that changed my life. It was from Steven Spielberg. I was 14. It made me believe that I could do anything. And years later, I met Steven Spielberg, and I told him, this is like a little nothing letter he wrote one day.
That he probably forgot.
Yeah, forgot. Like, who cares, you know? Funny enough, Steven Spielberg it was crazy. He actually remembered the subject. He couldn't believe that I was the kid, but he remembered the subject. But that little letter that was nothing for him changed my entire life.
Wow.
So, you know, I think you always hear about you hear about big businessmen who killed themselves because they lost millions of dollars, right?
But they had $1 billion already.
Yeah, but do you ever hear about anyone working in a soup kitchen? Like my buddy Sean Stevenson, who you know, told me that.
Yeah.
I heard him say that. I thought it was so brilliant because you never hear about people experiencing severe depression.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I was talking earlier about third world countries. They're happier than us.
So happy.
Because they're giving to each other. They're experiencing things. And, you know, we're the only creature on the planet that takes more than we need. And that's fine. There's a lot of fun you can have with that. Trust me. You know, I enjoy art. I probably don't need every piece of art, but, you know, I enjoy it.
I heard you have a Mickey Mouse sculpture or something you got.
I just love Mickey Mouse, man. I love him. Walt Disney, I saw it on your wall, and I loved it.
You like that?
If you want more greatness in your life, then you got to check out this video right here.
It's about divorcing yourself from self and from ego. And by looking at another person and being curious, and by looking at another person and caring about them before you even know who they are. Some people are hardwired in that brain to be tribal with humanity.